Hey everyone, I'm out here in the garage with the Acura RL once again. And what we're going to be doing today is replacing the coolant. So stay tuned. So the Acura RL is due for a coolant change that should be done every 36 months or 45,000 miles. I think I'm at around 48 months and about 40,000 miles, so a little overdue, but we'll get that done today. There are also probably a couple other fluids that I need to address in the future here, so I'll have some other videos coming up on other fluid changes on this car. But let's go ahead and jump into the coolant change on the Acura RL. So before we can change the coolant on this car, we need to make sure the engine is cold. So either do it early in the morning or do it at a time after you've let the car sit for a few hours to cool down. The second thing we're going to take care of is getting the car up in the air a little bit. We need to either get it on ramps or put it on jack stands. So I've done that already. The car is on ramps, and I'll put links to videos that will walk you through that process on this car in particular. So let's continue on. All right, so before we can drain the coolant, we actually need to open the heater. So how we do that, put the key in the ignition, turn it a couple clicks to the second position. Then what you want to do is turn your temperature dial to full hot. So if I turn this off right now, you can hear the noise. That's the heater closing. And now we'll open it up. Just turn it slowly. Now it's all the way open. And then just take your key out. And we're ready to go. All right, so next I'm going to remove the radiator cap, which is right here. Just twist that like so and then pull up. And if this radiator cap feels really loose when you're taking it off, it's probably a good idea to just go ahead and replace it. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is open the drain plug for the radiator. That is right up here. Just want to turn that counterclockwise. So the drain plug for the radiator was on very tight, making it difficult to get a really good grip to open it. You can try using pliers, but it's probably best to just remove the splash shield to do this job. And the splash shield is held on by several 10mm bolts and plastic clips. To remove those clips, use a screwdriver to lightly unscrew the center portion part way, then pull it out by hand the rest of the way. A pick tool may also be useful if the center part won't unscrew very far. Alright, so now that the radiator is pretty much finished draining, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and close this back up. Make sure you do that, because if you forget to do that, you'll have coolant running all over the place when you go to fill it back up. Next, we'll drain the block by removing the rubber cap. And I didn't want to damage the camera when the coolant started to flow out, so here's a picture. It's right next to the differential and just in front of the right axle. I simply remove the clamp with some pliers, then use some large hose pliers to slowly remove the cap. And you'll notice that I got myself out of the way to avoid getting doused by coolant. Most of the coolant has drained out. I'm going to go ahead and put the cap back on. So here's the cap. Slide that all the way up. Then we need to put our clamp back on. All right, that should be good. Alright, so the last item to drain is our reservoir. So we'll take this out first. Pull our reservoir out. Should be able to pull this out of here like that. Sometimes this reservoir gets debris in it, so you may want to also rinse it out before you put it back in the car. Alright, so now we've got everything drained out. We're going to fill up our system with some fresh coolant. So we've got Honda Type 2. You can see right there, 50-50 pre-diluted antifreeze. Do not add water, so it's already mixed and ready to go. So this is what I usually use. There's another coolant called Pentosa and Pentofrost A3 that is very similar. I think it may actually be the same stuff. But this is what I usually use. It's pretty cheap at the dealer. I think it's like $22 at the dealer for this 1 gallon. So it's not bad. And you're only doing this every 3 years anyway, so not that big a deal. So I'll take the cap off here. And we're just going to fill it up to the max line. Put our funnel in there. Alright, that looks good. I'll put the cap back on. Alright, so I'm going to remove the engine cover next. So there are a bunch of 10 millimeters. So on the 99 Acura RL there are 3. 2 here, 1 back here. Then there are 2 in the front. There's 1. And the second one's here. Okay, and then just lift the cover off like that. Alright, so there is a bleed bolt right here. You can probably barely see it. Tucked in here. That needs to be loosened up. You don't want to take it out, just loosen it up. That is a 12 millimeter. I've got a ratcheting wrench. That's probably good enough right there. And what I'm going to do also, I'm going to stuff some paper towels around that, because what's going to happen is we're going to bleed the system and coolant's going to run out of here. So I'm going to put some paper towels around there. Hopefully you can still see that. Alright, so I am going to actually also use this here. This is the Lyle spill-free funnel. I've used this for years. And it comes with, basically, you got this funnel, this giant funnel. So that goes in there. You also get a bunch of parts. See those bunch of parts in that box right there that go with the funnel. They all work with it. There is a specific size for Honda that's in here. So what you want to do is take one of these components like this, put that in here to see which one fits the best. I think this is the one I usually use. It's the one that's most beat up. It goes on like that. And then this goes on top of that. That locks on. And then the funnel goes on top of that. Now, the purpose of this is to help the system bleed, but we have the bleed screw there that will also give us an indicator as to whether the system has been bled properly. But I also like to use this too. We are going to go ahead and fill this up with coolant, and we should see some coolant start coming out of this bleed screw area, so we'll keep an eye on that. What we're looking for is basically, we want to make sure that the coolant that comes out of here is going to come out first of all as bubbles, and then over time, as it continues to bleed, it's going to come out in a stream. So once it comes out in the stream, that's a good indicator that we have the system properly bled. Just as a reminder, make sure you have your radiator drain closed before you do this, and then also make sure the cap is back on near the differential. So I'm going to take some of the coolant, pour it in there. You can hear some of the air coming out of that bleed screw there. You can hear it. So I'm going to keep pouring this. Grab some more coolant. It takes about 6.4 quarts to fill up the system. And that's including the reservoir too. You can see the bubbles starting right there. Okay, looks like it's coming out in a stream now. But also make sure you have a pan underneath there too. That's why I don't like using the bleed screw, because it makes a big mess. I'm going to close that back up. You can see it's coming out in a stream. Okay, that's closed back up. Alright, so I'm going to turn the car on, and what we want to do is just basically warm up the car, and at the same time we want to check for air in the system, make sure we got all the air out. And so what should happen, like I said, you should see this not really move very much. We shouldn't see any bubbles coming up or anything. And it's going to basically bleed out whatever's left in there. And what we want to do is run the car until the fans come on. We want to get up to normal operating temperature, and then we'll check for leaks and put the rest of the parts back on the car, and we should be done. Squeeze the upper hose here to try to force any air that might be in there out. Alright, so it looks like this is done. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and put my plug in for the spill-free funnel. Don't put it in too far, because if you put it in too far it will get stuck and it will end up breaking it. So that should be good enough right there. And then just go ahead and wrap some paper towels around here, like that, and just pull this off. Like that. Then just sop up any coolant that's coming up through here. We can take this off. Okay, then we can put our radiator cap on. And any coolant left in the spill-free funnel can just be returned to the coolant container. Alright, so I'm going to put the engine cover back on. Two studs here, one here and one there. It's always an adventure to get these lined up. There we go. Alright, the bolts go in this order. You got the two front bolts first, and then you put the rest in up top after that. So these are 10 millimeters. We'll start it first. Torque spec is 7.2 foot-pounds. I'm just going to tighten it up using the impact. That's good. Got our screw that goes over here. Start that in. Then our nuts. And our other nut right there. And again, 7.2 foot-pounds. Again, I'm just going to use the impact. And that's it. Alright, so there you have it. There's a coolant replacement on the 1999 Acura RL. And as you saw partway through this video, I took the splash shield off. It just makes the job go a little bit easier with that out of the way, so that's why I took it off. And also I use the Lyle spill-free funnel, which I've used for years. That's just something I do as a normal practice when I'm working on the Honda cars. I use a spill-free funnel, and that helps to get all the air out of the system. So hopefully this information was helpful, and thanks for watching.